All right, this presentation is going to be about not LLMs, not math, or maybe some math and a lot of economics, okay? Well, we're talking about a $360,000 question. Do I have your attention? As I mentioned, some math, some economics. What are we doing? So we all love Wikipedia. In this case, we are going to use a simple task. Take the entire Wikipedia and reduce it to half its size. Okay? That's the problem we are going to be solving in this presentation. But the important aspect that we are going to focus on is it expensive? How expensive is it? What are the options that we have? Okay? So take the Wikipedia, reduce it to half its size. That's all. And we're going to throw a bunch of LLMs at this problem. And by the way, please, this is a very dummy task. Don't try this at home. It's expensive, it's pointless, it's totally useless, right? Only for cost purposes, okay? So our favorite LLM, GPT-4, guess how much does it cost to take Wikipedia and reduce it to half its size using GPT-4? That's the $360,000 question. It costs $360,000 to take Wikipedia and reduce it to half its size using GPT-4. How do we do this? Well, your GPT-4 charges you based on the number of tokens that you send in your prompt and the number of tokens it sends in a response, right? $30 for 1 million tokens, $60 for 1 million tokens. Do some math. I might have made some mistakes in there, but almost sure that I haven't made any mistake. That comes out to $360,000, okay? I'll let this slide be for like 10 seconds for people to do the math themselves. Okay? Move on. So we have GPT-3. We have a bunch of instruction-tuned models with OpenAI. And if you use DaVinci, which is the highest-end instruction-tuned model that is available to you to fine-tune, that cost is half, $180,000. Okay? And if you go to a much smaller model, that is Curie, okay? Curie would cost you $18,000 to do the same task. All right? Now, just to put it in perspective, Curie is somewhere between 7 and 13 billion in parameters. Different estimates say different things, okay? So we can pick up an open source equivalent of this model, all right? I'm not picking an open source equivalent of GPT-4 or DaVinci, but we can take an open source model equivalent of Curie. And let's do the math side by side, okay? If you were to do the same task, take Wikipedia, reduce it to half its size using one of the self-hosted 7 billion model, that cost is $2,100, okay? So we have seen 360, 180, 18,000, and $2,100. The economics are looking good so far in favor of open source, okay? Now, let's make the math more complicated. Let's throw fine-tuning. So we have the model, we have our own data set. We want to fine-tune the model, right? How does that changes the cost equation? Number one, GPT-4, you can't fine-tune right now, so it's saved. But you can fine-tune DaVinci. DaVinci is good. If you were to fine-tune DaVinci with Wikipedia and slash it to half its size, the cost is $1.26 million. $1.26 million to take DaVinci, fine-tune it, and slash Wikipedia to half its size. And how do we do this? Because the cost of DaVinci increases sixfold, 6 times, when you have fine-tuned the model, okay? So, and obviously there is cost of fine-tuning itself. So that number is $1.26 million. And Curie, which is 10x cheaper than DaVinci, the same cost for the fine-tuned Curie model would be $126,000. All right? Now let's do the equivalent cost of a self-hosted fine-tuned model. the same model that I showed in the previous slide, turns out that even if you fine tune, these costs don't change actually. All right? So the $350 and $1,750, which is $2,100 that we saw, does not change. The only thing that changes is you add some cost of fine tuning itself, and your total cost is $3,500. Okay? So we have $1.26 million with fine-tuned DaVinci and $3.5 thousand with fine-tuned small model. Okay? Equivalent Curie, $126,000. So I think that's kind of the math that I wanted to show in this presentation to you all, that if you're looking at OpenAI models and you wanted to work with, you actually wanted to fine-tune these models, they're 7x more expensive, right? Whereas if you take an open source model and you wanted to fine-tune them, they are a lot less expensive, okay? And our belief is that the way large language models are going to evolve is you cannot choose one or the other. You really need some of the very large OpenAI type of models to do your generic tasks. But at some point, once you start putting these models to production, cost will become a concern. And at that point, the way the world is going to evolve is these open source models are going to reside together with these large commercial models. You throw the small tasks at the open source models and the large tasks and the OpenAI, the more complicated task at OpenAI models. And that's how you balance out your costs. That's a problem that True Foundry is solving. So we are basically helping you when you are using your OpenAI models to reduce your cost, and when you want to use the open source model to help you host them. Okay? Now, one thing I want to call out here. So remember when we were using OpenAI, most of the cost was coming based on the number of tokens, right? Everything is based on the number of tokens you send out. But imagine when you are sending out a Wikipedia text to OpenAI, right? It has all these words like in, off, the, all these things get counted towards your tokens. Now, intuitively, large language models are actually pretty good if you did not have some of those grammatically correct sentences. So you could technically reduce the number of tokens you're sending and actually save your direct OpenAI cost by 30%. We have done that experiment. It does not work every time, but it works like 85% of the times, okay? So that's one way we can help you reduce the cost. And the second is when you want to use your open source models, True Foundry is building a platform where you get your model catalog of a bunch of open source models and drop-in replacement APIs for OpenAI. So switching cost from OpenAI to open source is very high. You have to change one word in your code. Literally one word, okay? That's it. If you want to learn more, please sign up, and would love to get in touch with you all. Thank you.